Hello, and thank you for joining us for Changer Chats. I'm Grant Venable, Director of Change at Be the Change Volunteers. Today, we have my friend Oye Waddell, the founder and CEO of Hustle Phoenix. Hustle Phoenix is a faith-based nonprofit organization that exists to equip and catalyze underserved entrepreneurs annually with the intellectual, social, and financial capital they need to create sustainable business ventures for the common good. Fueled by his visionary style of leadership and their belief that all people have dignity, Oye knows that some of the most innovative entrepreneurs in the United States are in underserved urban communities. Oye, welcome to Changer Chats.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oye, I just am so glad that you're willing to do this interview with me. I want everybody listening to know that if you get online and you Google Oye Waddell, you will be able to see a more extensive, really cool TED Talk that he did, along with some other interviews. He has an amazing story. And just to start out, really, in this episode of Changer Chats, I'm going to let Oye do most of the talking and I'm going to do most of the listening. But Oye, would you just share your story? I know you grew up in South Central Los Angeles in the 80s, but tell me about that and tell me what sparked your desire to begin Hustle Phoenix.
What sparked my desire to start Hustle Phoenix was really about my story. Grew up in South Central LA. A lot of my friends and family, they took advantage of the opportunities that were in front of them. I've seen a lot of that going in my community in regards to a lot of drug dealing, and that's not actually, when you think about these things, right? Like at first, you look at it and say, "Man, look at these people; they're destroying their community." Really dig into it, and you get underneath it. You see that really what they were, my friends and family, and obviously, I never engaged in it, but definitely had the deep desire to say, you know what, I don't have any money. I want to figure out how I can make some money too. So I wasn't opposed to it, although I did not do it. But I think that at the core of it, it was like, hey, look, I want to create opportunity. I want to create a opportunity to be able to take care of myself. But because historically, especially in the African American community, if you look at the statistics, typically, or the statistics show African American males, especially when they are trying to get a job, they are usually the last to get hired and the first to get fired. There's a lot of studies done on that. And also, if you think about this too, when you think about the prison population, right? We have a huge problem in our country with this hyper incarceration, right? Where we have in America, we have the largest prison population in the world, right? And so if you look at the statistics, there's a few think tanks in Washington, D.C. One of them that we subscribe to is the Sentencing Project. And it really goes deep into the statistics around who's incarcerated, who's behind bars, and what communities are targeted by incarceration and really impacted. And so, honestly, when I started to understand not only my lived experience, but started to study this from a scientific perspective and saying like, hey, I understand the problem. How do we create a viable solution to it? Because one of the things I think we can do is just talk about how bad these communities are. But I feel like as a believer in Christ, to just say how bad something is and not try to step into it and to be a part of the solution, I feel like I'll be going against the call that God has on my life. And so I think the big question that I had as a leader, somebody that cares about the communities that I grow up in, and also all communities. I care about all communities, but specifically when I see an issue, especially around men being incarcerated at alarming rates, I always ask the question, what is the church doing about it? Right? Like, what is the church? How is the church engaging to really help people be more of who God called them to be, especially as it relates to men and women in the communities and marginalized communities? And I didn't see a whole lot being done, especially like innovative things being done, right? And so understanding that research, understanding my lived experience, really responding to a call or a vision that God has given me, I just say, I want to start something that really gets at the issue that a lot of my friends and family were trying to get to. They wanted to do business, right? They wanted to do business. They wanted to learn business. They wanted to understand it. They wanted to engage in it, but they weren't taught, obviously, the way to do business or given the opportunity, right? When you think about
Right.
how businesses are moving and how businesses get started, usually people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And usually people business owners connect with other business owners, right? And provide deals, opportunities. Hey, you should come and think about this. And so a lot of folks I grew up with didn't have those opportunities, nor did I, right? And so I think we just said, hey, look, let's speak to the exact problem that we see in our country. And so one of the things, just a statistic really quick, the prison population has grown over 500% in the last 40 years. 80% of the crimes are economic, right? That means that people are trying to work. People want to work. People want opportunity. And then when I think about even in the scripture, right, when you look at Genesis 2:15, the first thing that God gives to Abram to do is work and keep the garden, right? Like work is such a big part of who we are as human beings. Work is such a big part of our call, and work is important. It's worship. When we work, we're worshiping, right? Like that's offering up our gifts, right? Our hands and feet to God, to community, to love. I think about, just love God, love neighbor, and we get to love our neighbor through our work. And so people want to work. And if they don't have the opportunity to work, if they don't feel like they have the right opportunities, they're going to figure it out. And so that's what most people do. Most people have done. And that's why with the problem we're trying to solve. And I'll pause here so you guys get another question. But another thing I think about.
I love everything you're saying.
And when it relates to, yeah, another thing I think about as it relates to this is that when you not only is the prison population increased by 500%, 80% economics crimes, but another statistic is that when you look at poverty per capita across the United States, 80% of homes led by single mothers are in poverty. So that means that when you eliminate the father or the dad or the man out of the home, that home is more susceptible to be in poverty, right? And so one of the things we're saying is like, hey, let's speak to that. Let's try to solve that problem head on and try to help people understand not only how to get a job, but also how to create opportunities, create jobs for others, because we see that as a part of the call that God gave us.
Yeah, I love what you've talked about in terms of work and how important that is for people. We believe that work creates dignity for people.
Yes.
There's
yes.
just something about having a job, earning an income, and providing for yourself and for your family that gives you dignity. And when that is taken away and your dignity is taken away, I personally believe that's something that breaks a home down, certainly. Oh, yeah. Be the Change Volunteers is an education organization. And one of the things, after I met you and got to spend time with you and really learn more about your organization, you guys also are you're really an education organization. There are many things that you do to empower people. I love that you talked about using social capital. People always think the only way to be successful and start a business is if I have money. I got to have financial capital, but social capital is very important. And you talk about closing what I call an opportunity gap. We try to close that opportunity gap with education globally. You guys are closing the opportunity gap by giving hustlers another way to hustle in legal businesses and introducing them to other business owners around Phoenix and increasing their social capital. The thing that you guys do that I think is really cool is you use education. You have a 101, a 202, and a 303 course. You have curriculum and classes that you put people through so that they can learn how to be entrepreneurs. Could you just talk about each one of those, maybe in brief, give a summary of the 101, the 202, and the 303, so that our listeners will know how in-depth your program really is to prepare someone to be an entrepreneur?
Yes, I love to. But before I get there, I do want to make a point, right? And I think this all connects. When you think about going back to the previous point I made around prisons, right?
Yes.
There's a term, especially in the U.S. Like I don't know if this is more of a global term, but definitely in the U.S., it's called the school to prison pipeline.
School to
right?
prison pipeline.
And so essentially, school to prison pipeline, right? And so education is a huge part of why it's the situation we're in today. For example, when you think about I'll tell a story, right? Like I used to teach in the Compton Unified School District. And Compton is infamous for the crime and the things like that in the community in Los Angeles. But in Compton. I was a teacher, and I remember in California they had a law where you can only have up to 20 students in the classroom from first to third grade. But after third grade, you can have as many students in the classroom as possible. And I remember being in some of those fifth and sixth grade classrooms where we would have 40 kids in a classroom with no books,
Hmm.
right? And so you think about this, right? Like if you think about urban inner city communities, if they don't have the proper, if those individual students are not getting the proper education because the schools are overcrowded, the classrooms are overcrowded, they can't get adequate books, adequate opportunities. It's no way that one teacher can teach 40 kids, 50 kids at a time, right? And really give them
Right.
that the love and the care and the nurturing they need,
Right.
right? What happens is a lot of kids that are really, really smart fall through the cracks and start to engage in negative activity because the school system has failed them in a lot of ways, right?
Right.
And so we see that as an opportunity and saying that, listen, we understand not only did in the urban inner city communities, many of the schools have failed the students, and you know we can place blame and point fingers at a lot of different things, but I think overall we as a community need to be outraged about, hey, we need to do more research. These students are not getting an adequate education, and so what we do with Hustle is say, all right, we understand all of these things. Now, obviously, we don't really touch education at a young, K through 12. We don't touch that. We really work with opportunity youth, so 16 to 24. So I would say young adults to
Right.
adults 25 and up. And so we do. We have a series of education to support educational opportunities to support the entrepreneurs. We all know the old saying, if you know better, you do better, right?
You
And
know better,
so
you do
in
better.
our one-on-one, our Hustle one-on-one, we call that you know better, you do better, right? And so in our Hustle one-on-one, we call it the ideation phase, right? And so many entrepreneurs have an idea, they have something they're kicking around that maybe God has given them as a vision, or they see a problem. We always tell people, like, look around your community, look around the places that you go and things of that nature. What problems do you see, and how can you create a solution to it, right? And so in that one-on-one phase, it's 13 weeks, and we really dive in. We start with, hey, what is your why? Who did God make you to be? Like, what is a business? Are you really a business owner? They go through this personality test to really understand their personality. They go through a team test to really understand their gifting and to figure out, who should I have on my team to actually run this business? Because one of the things about business is it's a team sport, right? Team, we say team together, everyone achieves more. And so, although many business owners start off by themselves, but if they're going to grow a business, you need a team. And so we help people discover all of those things about themselves and then dive in and say, okay, what problem are you solving? And then what do you need to get that problem solved? What type of resources, whether it be marketing, sales, understanding the numbers in terms of behind the business, all of those things we kind of really dive into in that ideation phase, right? But then the next thing, Hustle Phoenix 202, is the validation phase. And then at that validation phase, it's usually a 9-month program. And we really dive into helping entrepreneurs understand their financials, helping them understand deeply their marketing strategy, creating a pitch deck to potential investors, helping them understand how to hire and the legal ramifications of hiring, and also how to create marketing plans and sales plans. And we go really deep into all of those areas, understanding their operations, going really deep into the numbers and unit economics to help them understand exactly how they would create a profit. All of that education helps them become better entrepreneurs, but also I think about entrepreneurship as a high calling, right?
Yes.
When we teach our entrepreneurs, we teach them entrepreneurship business is a high calling, meaning you have an opportunity, especially as you have employees, you have people that you're doing business with, business to business, and also the end user, the customer. All of these people are depending on you to provide a great product, right, or a service. And
Right.
if you're not, that means that people's families are impacted when businesses aren't doing well, right? They have to lay off people. That impacts people's bottom line. They can't send their kids to school. They can't buy homes. They can't They can't provide the proper insurance for their family because the business didn't do well or they didn't do what they're supposed to do, right? And so I think when we talk to people, especially in that 202 level, we help them understand that business is about, it's a high calling. It's about restoration. It's not only about restoration yourself and your family, but it's also about restoring your own home, but your family, but also your community, right? And provide or the people that are around you, your community, by provide jobs to everybody and opportunities for people, but also the broader community in the sense that you're able to support charitable opportunities, and help the community become better, build new buildings. Business is key to a lot of these things that are going on in our community. How schools get invested in, all of these things, and so we really preach and teach to our entrepreneurs that not only do you need to know, I call it the X's and O's of business. I was an athlete, so everything's, sometimes when I talk, I think about X's and O's, right?
Right.
But we really teach them and help them to be students of understanding their business, students of understanding how they are going to execute and really provide their gifts to the world. The last phase is our Hustle 303, and that's our execution phase. And in that phase, many of the entrepreneurs have been in business maybe a couple of years, and they're trying to scale and really grow their business throughout, whether the city, the world, however, whatever scale looks like for them. And that's a year-long program. And they go in, we teach them and work with them and go deep into like a strategic plan. Then we help them understand, really go dive deeper into the financials, where they're using those financials to drive the day-to-day operations of the business. And then really diving deep into like sales and marketing and really helping them build a team around their sales and marketing to really drive the revenue that they need to continue to grow the business. So all of this is, I would call it experiential learning, right? Because it's one thing to learn, right? It's one thing to go to school and learn, which is great. And I think it opens up opportunities for us. But sometimes I think when we can't connect the learning to our experience, that's when it's lost. And one of the things we do is say, we want we want this to be an experiential learning process. So with everything that you learn, we want you to go and do immediately. Make mistakes immediately. Because when you make mistakes and you make them quickly, then you can learn faster and then you can continue to move forward. And so those are the things we really encourage people to do.
I totally agree. Making mistakes is probably the fastest way to learn because it's painful. And starting a business, I think, can
Exactly
be,
right.
for any organization, you're going to go through some pain. And I think it's amazing that rather than these people who join your program, rather than them try to go at that alone, they're going at it with a team of people behind them, a team of advisors and investors, things that they just wouldn't have access to otherwise. I mean, that's a fact. They wouldn't have access to these types of opportunities if Hustle Phoenix wasn't there to provide them. And I love how your organization is really full circle. You're talking about taking people who are just trying to survive. They want to work, and so they're going to do the
Yeah.
work and the opportunities that are in front of them. You're putting positive, good opportunity, legal opportunities, economic opportunities in front of them and allowing them to stay out of prison and create jobs, keeping more people out of prison because they do want to work. And I love that at the top you say, you're going to be successful and you have a responsibility to the community. This is a higher calling. One of the things that you said one time, Oye, is you said, we are blessed to be a blessing. And Rachel, my wife, and I, we have said that and used that over and over again because it's so profound. It's so incredible that thought that this higher calling of being an entrepreneur has created these opportunities, and now you're blessed, and you're blessed to be a blessing. So I think that's amazing. Oh yeah,
Yes, and that comes from Genesis 12:1-3, right? When that is the call of Abraham. That is the call that God gave to Abraham. He said, Genesis 12:1-3. If you read that, really, he's saying that Abraham, you're blessed to be a blessing, and everybody that comes from you, which is the nation of Israel, is to be a blessing. And it goes to us as believers. And I'm not saying, I know not everybody's a believer on this call who be listening, but as Christians, our call is to be a blessing, right? And so
right.
whatever God has given us, whatever God has blessed us with, it's our call to be a blessing and give that freely and to be able to really bless people because God has given to us.
I love it. Oh yeah, do we have time? Would you share a success story with us about one of your participants? I mean, it doesn't have to be somebody who's gone all the way through 303, But she's someone who's come to the program, gone through the program, started a business, and they're in business today because of Hustle Phoenix.
I mean, if you come to Phoenix, if anybody's here listening and reach out to us, we have a ton of businesses here in Phoenix that we've helped to grow and start. One particular is a young guy, uh, uh, and he runs a photo booth called Park Phoenix. I think it's PARCPHX. He's from Phoenix, born and raised, well, no, I'm sorry, he's from Mexico. Came over and but now lives in Phoenix. And he was growing. I met him one day. I forget how I met him, but he was like, "Hey, I want to start a business. I'm an entrepreneur and I have an idea." And it's interesting because it's interesting how when you first see people come through our program, it's almost like this butterfly effect, right? They're a caterpillar. They'll be really unsure of themselves. They may not really understand how to communicate their business, to communicate the vision or idea that they have. And over time, as they continue to just be in community, be around other entrepreneurs, you just see that cocoon and that person just grow into this beautiful butterfly that is, doing business, doing amazing things. And so he is one that I would highlight to say, man, it's been great to just watch him grow. He actually ended up taking a job with us for about 2 years while he was building his business, right? Because we always encourage people, don't if you don't have to, don't jump right in if you still need to pay your bills and your business is not all the way established, right?
Right.
But he provides this photo booth. He restored a camper, like a 1976 camper. And he creates these great experiences for weddings and parties and things of that nature. So every weekend you try to reach out to him, he's booked. I mean, he's booked solid for months because people love his service, how he approaches his business professionally, and he gives you a great experience around creating memories at your events. And so he's one guy that I really respect. He's a younger guy. I really respect him, and man, he's just inspiring to me to see how far he's come and being able to grow and become a man and grow his business and build and grow and just watch him. It's amazing.
I love that story. Oh yeah, I love that. There's so many more. Oh yeah, would you tell our audience how they can learn more about Hustle Phoenix?
Yes, if you go to our website, hustlephx.com, that's HUSTLEPHX.com. Hustle, www.hustlephustlepHX.com. You can learn more about our mission, vision, and ways that if there's anybody, we always are looking for volunteers and people in the community. So if there's somebody that wants to volunteer, or one of the things I didn't mention is we also do financing for businesses. So if there's a small business that needs access to capital through a loan, a small business loan, things like that, we do all of that. And so hustlephx.com.
You guys have a wide range of programs. Actually, it's not just for adults, and we don't have time in this chat, but maybe we can do another one because I think people would love to hear about what you're doing in juvenile detention centers to start empowering those kids as they come out of that system to start businesses. I could talk to you all day about this because I love what you do and I love your passion for it. But oh yeah, just thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing just part of your story and part of your mission. I encourage everyone to check out Hustle Phoenix online and certainly reach out to BTCV if you'd like to get connected with Oye. So Oye, thank you for joining us today, my friend.
Thank you. You have a great one, and God bless you. Thank you so much.
If you like Changer Chats, check us out online at www.btcv.us. You can show us support for Changer Chats also by clicking the donate button. Thank you and be the change.